Today I'd like to continue our discussion of the book Undoing the Knots by Maureen O'Connell. We're looking at the first part of her book, her prologue and introduction, and she's really kind of taking a look at her family history now, and she's going to say, well, what is the racism that we find within my own particular family? And she uses a very interesting concept. She talks about rounding and similar to confession, how we kind of reveal things and we can then deal with them. And she sees it in terms of the Irish concept of a tura, which she describes as a pilgrimage. And so what she's going to do is, in her book, is she's going to take a little bit of a pilgrimage through her life. And you might say, well, Maureen, why are you doing this? What's the ideal here? And she says her goal is to become a more truthful storyteller, so that when she tells her story, it's more based in truth. And what will that lead to if we are a more truthful storyteller about our own life, our own pilgrimage with regard to racism? Well, she feels that it will lead us to be really witnesses to the truth, so that we will know the truth and be able to share the truth with others. So, setting that up, she gets into chapter one, which she names Witnessing, kind of a follow up to what she's talking about. Well, what did she witness? How will she become a witness? And she talks about her father in 1985 and waking her up at night. And she got up and she saw this orange sky. And what happened was there was an incident in which the Philadelphia Police Department unloaded 10,000 rounds of ammunition in 90 minutes into these homes in a section in Philadelphia. 12 people were killed as a result of this. 6 of those 12 were children. It was a middle class black neighborhood, not a poor area, middle class. It was in West Philadelphia. And they were trying to evict the residents and arrest several of the residents. So the idea was, let's evict them and we want to arrest some of them. There were suspicious activity there. It was interesting that there were no prior efforts at conflict resolution by city officials or agencies. They just came into the area, fired into the homes, wound up killing the people. And you might say, this is America. Why is this happening? Why weren't there any prior efforts? It became really an outrageous example of racism in Philadelphia. Untrained members of the bomb squad dropped a knapsack containing C4 that exploded on the roof of the home and started the blaze. So, unfortunately, these people did not have good training. They really didn't know what they were doing. They put these ultimately, I think what they were trying to do here is to minimize casualties on the part of the police. They were assuming that these people were armed. They would pull out their weapons. There could be this type of, gunfire. Many policemen could be killed, and you can understand that type of thinking. But to do this without any prior attempt at, what is the conflict? What can we do? And just to go in and to destroy these homes, which became on fire, and the loss of life, as we said, 6 children. Initially, when the blaze started, firefighters were ordered by the police to stand down, to not to go in and to rescue anyone. The fire became an inferno and consumed an entire square block. So that initial blaze, which perhaps could have been contained, was not, because of the instructions, and the whole block was ablaze. Maureen was 12 at the time of this. So again, in unpacking her truth about racism, she goes back to this incident, and really it made a tremendous impression because the way they were parked, they could see the blaze, and she was wondering, what was happening. The Black Liberation Group, MOVE, meaning the movement, was the target of this particular incident. Um, so the 6 adults, 5 children, 61 homes in the Cobbs Creek neighborhood of West Philadelphia were left homeless, 61, which totaled to 250 homeless residents because of this one particular incident. Our positionality filtered everything we were taking in. Uh, how they were on that picnic table on the city line, age, gender, race, all of that was taken in through the lens of where they were sitting. So as Maureen looked back on that, her perception of that was through her race. She was white, these people were black. Uh, so she was trying to absorb this incident and say, well, what exactly was happening here? They were standing on a picnic table. They had a good view of it, of the fire. Um, but what did this mean? What was truly happening? Uh, when their father brought them back home after seeing this, there was no outrage that this had happened. There was no discussion about it. It was just this blaze, and these people died, and many were left homeless. And as she reflects back on it, she says there was no leadership from the bishop. And she finds that is very peculiar. Here, this outrageous act happened. These people were targeted. There was no attempt at reconciliation prior to it. Many were killed. Great number left homeless by the police action. What did the bishop say? Why was there no leadership from the bishop? Why was there no discussion in the Catholic parishes about it? Philadelphia, a predominantly Catholic area. And she reflects back on that and says, well, what was lacking here? Why wasn't this discussed? And that's, I think, a very interesting question that she raises here. This outrage happened when you think about it. And yet, what did the Catholic Church in this area do about it? Maureen, in her recollection and looking back, says really nothing. It was just accepted. No discussion, nothing from the bishop. And what does that say about the Catholic Church and racism?